my name is Brianna Michaud, and I'm coming to you from the USF College of Marine Science. My thesis has all to do with maximizing the health of our estuaries. An estuary is where fresh water from a spring or a river comes down to the ocean and interacts with the salt water there. The reason these areas are so important is that many fish and invertebrates that people like to catch and eat spend at least part of their lives there. In fact, it's estimated that over 80% of the fish caught in the Gulf of Mexico are reliant on estuaries in some way. Now, when we want to manage these estuaries, the problem is that they're very complicated. So the goal of our study was to look at a whole bunch of different species and a whole bunch of different variables to figure out which variables were the most important and which management actions would have the greatest effect. So we did this by looking at 13 different estuaries that can be seen here. And in each of these estuaries, we looked at over 400 species. We measured their abundance over the course of a year using seine netting, trawling, and plankton tows. Now, I use this data in two ways. First, I looked at communities, which are groups of species that tend to live and interact with each other. And I asked which variables, when they change, are going to also change what kind of community you find there. One of the first major findings was that distance to the Gulf had a large effect on many of these communities. The reason for that is that many of these species when they're babies, are spawned out in the Gulf of Mexico. And then they have to choose an estuary to grow up in. And as you can probably imagine, it's much easier for them to reach, say, one of these estuaries that's right on the coast than one where it's further away from the Gulf of Mexico, so they have to travel further. So based on this, we use distance to the Gulf as a covariate for the rest of our analysis, which means that we basically said that given a river is a certain distance from the Gulf of Mexico, we can't change that because we can't pick it up and move it, how are these variables affecting these species? I also looked at species of particular economic and ecological importance individually because the community analysis doesn't really necessarily tell you which species are winners and losers under different scenarios. Both the community analysis and the individual analysis results suggest that the variables that have to do with habitat have the greatest effect on these species. Especially variables like what kinds of vegetation are there, what type of bottom it is, and also especially whether there's a lot of shallow habitat for these animals to live. So based on that, the restoration efforts probably are going to have the most success in maintaining healthy communities in these ecosystems. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much.